Good morning. Thank you for joining me in this presentation, friends, colleagues, dignitaries. My presentation is called Dreaming as a Re-Evolutionary Act towards Self-Actualization, in the hope that we can shift the statistic of violence in our country. I'd like to share with you my journey in developing an installation in the plant nursery. Because of its unprecedented nature, it enabled me to explore the idea of transformation directly, knowing well that by transformation, we have to embed ourselves, and also acknowledging the conditioning with which we come to any form of transformation, the ability to be vulnerable, the ability to vision ourselves differently. Biko speaks about transformative behaviour. In our right, but like he references the envisioned self. What is that envisioned self? How do we place ourselves within the space of transformation? What is our role? What is the individual role? So, having developed this installation in the plant nursery was a difficult space, firstly, to build an artwork. It was also a space that I had little or no control over. And it meant that both my work and myself had to be vulnerable at every point. Understanding the idea of transformation not as a verb, not as a noun, but as a verb, that it is something that requires constant work, requires constant interrogation, where we are hell-bound by the oppression of racial discrimination, which is still embedded in our very psyches, and where we are held by gender discrimination, which is the way we have always been. How do we then transform? Are we able to? We can develop the most progressive legislation. We can have as many policy documents as possible, but without us going through the alchemic process of transforming ourselves, looking at where we are still embedded in the very things that hold us captive. I have 33 slides, and I would like you to explore them visually, just to engage with each element of it. Ideally, that would be a space you'd be able to visit and experience for yourself. And so I would like to leave you with that. I have included a few notes. Don't worry too much about missing every single word and trying to note those down. The presentation does loop, and it will be made available to you, I think, after this conference. So looking at what is transformation, how do we transform? What are the tools that enable this to take place, to happen? And yes, we do a lot of speaking. I mean, our country has been phenomenal in our transformation. We don't ever let it rest. Every incident is an opportunity for us to shift and change and move and think about and consider the self at every point. How do we then find this envisioned self? Where does it lead us? Where does it begin? I've used my predominant material is single-use plastic that has been discarded. I prefer not to use the word recycled, because recycled actually implies that while I'm going to reuse something, my behavior hasn't changed. So I would like us to be also quite conscious of the fact that we repeat the same things, and that's what actually prevents us from becoming fully actualized and becoming this envisioned self, this envisioned society. And the fact that as many people as they are have different visions for ourselves, how then do we become much more tolerant? How do we listen? How do we see because looking is very different to seeing. So I'd like you to participate in this exploration with me visually. You may always contact me and ask questions as you go along. And really take yourself through that journey from the time you were a little boy or little girl to now, to the conversations you participate in or don't, to the tolerances you have or you don't, to what you see around you and how you see them. Where does tradition come in? Where does culture come in? Where does our constitution come in? Where do politics come in? Where do our personal agendas come in? So those are the questions I ask myself. I don't have all the answers, but it's certainly a journey that I could share, and it's certainly the space that enabled me and those that visited or were able to participate to some degree, were able to encounter themselves through this in this process. The last month was particularly difficult because while my work deals with dreaming as a revolutionary act, it was a time where people were dying and losing their jobs, and the whole country was in lockdown. And so it became a question for me as well. What am I doing here? Why would I be worrying about dreaming? Because dreaming implies something about the future, ability to shift ourselves. At a time where it seems as though we had no control. Yes, this virus that's permeated everything. Then there are the power dynamics. Then there's issues that we call corruption, and people have been able to access funds and others not, and so on. What is going on? What is the real issue?